Hare Krishna. Welcome back. Here we are with the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 1972, Macmillan edition. I just heard on Facebook today that Macmillan and Collier actually merged. Yeah, it's called Collier Macmillan Limited, London. And then the Macmillan Company is New York, New York. Anyway, this is the closest you can get to an unedited, the closest you can easily get to an unedited Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada. Um, I've heard even the 1968 edition is a little bit edited, but 72 is completely fine. I mean, compared to the ones from the 80s and later, I do really, like I've said before, I love the pictures in those. But besides that, I mean, some of the edits are so bad. I was in a class in the temple, a Sunday feast class, and the Mataji leading the class did this one verse. It was all about Varnashram Dharma. I think was it 1622 or 13 something? If it's not 1622, I'm going to give up on looking for it. But anyway, the it's so funny having these classes in the Temple of the Holy Name here at Prabhupada Village because we have the 72 Gitas and the 84, whatever year it is, Gitas right next to each other in physical copies that we hand out during the class. So one guy next to me had the orange one, I had the blue one, and so I said, that's weird. Let's see what the other one says. And yeah, the edit was the worst edit I've ever seen because it was actually just an English grammar mistake. And actually, the 72 edition, Srila Prabhupada, did the correct English grammar. And then in the edited one, they made it worse. And this is so, it was a really mundane example. It's just were created instead of are created. This is basic past tense, like very basic English grammar. But it's so horrible because the only edits that Prabhupada authorized were basic grammar, punctuation, stuff like that, which, anyone can easily overmiss when you're writing something. It's just human error. It can happen. And as long as you just change these really mundane things without changing the meaning, it's not a big deal. So Prabhupada authorized that because he's a rational human being. And anyone else in that situation would probably authorize it. Although seeing what happened historically speaking, I would not be authorizing that because, I mean, the editors are just so ruthless that it's not 60. Yeah, there's one verse that talks all about Varnashram Dharma. It's not 1622. The purport in that verse immediately starts talking about the four Varnas. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't have it. Anyway, as for those of you who know English, you know it should be in any sentence when you say the it was something like the gunas or the varnas were created by Lord Krishna. That is the correct way to do simple past tense. Are created by is strange. It's like the only way I could see how that'd be better is if you're saying, well, Krishna created these four Varnas or whatever, but then at the time of annihilation of the universe, they die, and then he's created again and again. But they still were created. I mean, that's still the correct past tense way to speak English. So, um, Yeah, were created was in the blue book, and are created was in the orange book. That's all I remember. Anyway, we don't have much time before my voice runs out, so I'm going to go right to chapter 2, where we left off. Chapter 2, verse 1. Contents of the Gita summarized. Verse 1. Sanjay. Oh, real quick. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion and very sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. The Supreme Person, Bhagavan, said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. That word progressive, let's look at that a bit more. Continuing. They do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. So I'm going to look at the word for word and see where that progressive word is coming from. So Godhead said, wherefrom unto you dirtiness, this lamentation, this hour of crisis arrived. Persons who do not know the value of life, practiced by Asvargyam, that which does not lead to higher planets, infamy is the cause of. It doesn't actually say in the word for word. So I don't know where Prabhupada came with this progressive word. Is it Kashmalam, dirtiness? I'm not complaining because this translation, when you just read it as it is, it's so perfect. It seems that whole sentence where he says, they are not befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. I don't actually see where Krishna says that in the verse. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Krishna says, wherefrom unto you, kutatva, dirtiness. Wherefrom unto you, dirtiness. This lamentation that you're doing is dirty. This hour of crisis has arrived. And then anarya, persons who do not know the value of life. Well, they practice that which does not lead to the higher planets, and this is the cause of infamy or Arjuna. Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada took a lot of liberty here in this translation, which once again I'm not complaining about because it's perfect. I mean, it's just really personal. That's what's so great about this translation. Let's see what the purport says. Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. So therefore, Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. Absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, the impersonal spirit, universal spirit, Paramatma, the super soul, and Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavatam, this conception of the absolute truth is explained thus. This is 1, 2, 11. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. the phases are identical or the three aspects are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. I think that is the phases that are identical because it mentions phases twice there. There is, of course, some difference between those three aspects of God, but as phases in our development, we should see them as equal. And this is one thing that really bothers me about ISKCON is, this anti-Mayavadi rhetoric. I mean, sure, Mayavadis are bad, but there's many people who are, you know, very close to attaining that Brahmajyoti realization, that Brahman realization of world one, and that's a very beneficial, very good thing. We should not look down on them. Say, oh, you don't have the highest truth. But this is just garbage behavior. Um, some people, including myself, have to first come to the Brahman realization before Paramatma and then Bhagavan. Um, Now, maybe it's saying here that actually you have to do that, in which case you really shouldn't say anything bad about someone who's at the Brahmin stage, because that's great. It's still better than the level before that where you're just in ignorance, right? Or atheist. Oh yeah, and of course Prabhupada talks about the example of the sun. There's the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. And it goes from beginner to intermediate to advanced. Really more purple. Wow. And the Bhaktas who realize Bhagavan feature are the topmost transcendentalists. Although all students who are engaged in the study of the Absolute Truth are engaged in the same subject matter. That's the important part. This is where he said earlier all the phases should be seen as equal. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the same thing coming in again here. But the students of the three different phases are not in the same category. That's very subtle, but it's very important to see this. Um, we're all studying God, but it doesn't mean we're all, top level, whatever, swamis, We have to be, of course, respectful and friendly with everyone as long as they're, indeed actually sincerely practicing. We should be so grateful. And there's a strong sense of fraternity and equality there, but it doesn't change the fact that those who are realizing Paramatma are a different category than those who are realizing Brahmajyoti or Bhagavan. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parasara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, the Supreme Personality who has all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. There are many people who have that. No one can claim they have it entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity, including the demigods, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore, it's concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is this Sri Bhagavan, as it mentions in the Gita in Sanskrit. No one is equal to or above him. He's the primeval Lord, known as Govinda, the supreme cause of all causes. And it quotes here Brahma Samhita 5:1. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. And here's an important verse from Bhagavatam 1:328. All the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions. I looked up that word recently. Plenary means, how did it go again? It's kind of like ultimate. No, unqualified or absolute. Not ultimate, but unqualified. Like, kind of like pure. So the incarnations are plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, the source of both the Supersoul and the impersonal Brahman. That's a very clever way to put it at the end there. For those suckers like me who are still stuck at the Paramatma stage of realization. It's like, oh, you think you're so smart with your Brahma and your Paramatma? Well, guess where that comes from? That's what Prabhupada is saying. Yeah, big tough guy. Guess where it really comes from? I'm sure he's not saying it as comically as I am. All glories to my obeisances and offenses. Wait, what? So, okay, now finally, Prabhupada's talking about the Sanskrit. He's saying Krishna uses the word kutas, where from, to describe his surprise for Arjuna's lamentation. This is so unlike him, so he's saying, where is this coming from? Unmanly sentiments like this were never expected from a person belonging to the Aryans. And Aryan as a word basically just means people who know the real value of life and have a civilization based on that spiritual realization. And then people who don't know anything about this and are stuck in material bondage are called non-Aryans. That's all there is. There's two kinds of people, Aryans and A-Aryans. Okay, on to text 3. O son of Prita, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and rise. Arise, O chastiser of the enemy. That was Krishna's first attempt in the Gita to get him. The whole Gita is about, Krishna. I mean, within the historical context, it's all about Krishna, trying to get his friend, this warrior, to pick up his weapon and get on with it already. And so Krishna said two things here. He said in verse 2, he said, man, where's this coming from? Why are you acting like this? This behavior you're doing does not lead to higher planets. It leads to infamy. And for someone like you, I'm really surprised. Where is this coming from? And he was hoping that would be good enough for Arjuna, which in many other circumstances I'm sure it would be for a kshatriya, an Aryan kshatriya. That should be all it requires. You tell them how they're going to lose honor and how they're cowardly, and then you go, "Well, no, I'm not," and then they they get back to it. And so he said one thing like that, and then Krishna says, "Man, you are just such a mess. Just give it up. Give this weakness, man. Just forget about it and rise." And of course, it wasn't enough for Arjuna. Oh man, Krishna tried, and he never gives up on his friends and devotees. So thank God for that, literally. And in the purport here, Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives, but Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity not approved by authority. Therefore, such magnanimity, or so-called nonviolence, should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. That's very important. Um, Magnanimity is one of the bona fide virtues mentioned later here in the Gita. I forgot what. And it's important that Prabhupada says so-called nonviolence. This is basically Krishna can see through Arjuna's weakness, his momentary struggle here, and Arjuna is not actually being nonviolent. He does have saintly character, but in this particular instance, it is not righteous for Arjuna to act like this. It's at the heart of it. It's actually Arjuna is deceiving himself. He's suffering from self-deception and weakness of heart. That's literally what Krishna says here. So within this particular context, it is not authorized, and Arjuna has to stop that. What I'm thinking in my head of is like vegans, like hardcore vegans and people like that who, have all these big claims of how nonviolent and whatever they are, but it's all nonsense. Their adhikari, their ethos is not there. They don't get to talk to anyone like that. I mean, I'm talking about Western white people, baituas, as the Chinese say. They have a dirty word. That's the only dirty word the Chinese have for Westerners is the white leftists, baitua. Anyway, text 4. Arjuna said, "O killer of Madhu, Krishna." Krishna's in brackets there. Madhusudana, which is the killer of Madhu, which is Krishna. How can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Very good reply by Arjuna, man. And it's like not only are these guys incredible warriors and like respectable and noble, whatever, but they're his family too. They're his own family. And that's just what Prabhupada says in the purport here. Moving on. It is better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers, even though they are avaricious. I hope I said that right. Avaricious. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Avaricious. They are nonetheless superiors. If they are killed, our spoils will be tainted with blood. Another good point, although Arjuna kind of already said that before. And in the purport it says, according to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. And Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply for money. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. And this is why this whole another reason this whole nonviolent saintly thing that Arjuna is acting from is in this moment not righteous. It's not true. So Arjuna will not benefit by acting out of this lie, basically, that he's telling himself. They're not actually his teachers anymore. They were, and now they're not, and he needs to stop following them. It's reminding me of another book I'm reading now called Divine or Demoniac. Big parallel there. Anyway, Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. But that's wrong. Number 6. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. The sons of Dhritarashtra, whom if we killed we should not care to live, are now standing before us on this battlefield. I mean, he already said that. 7. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. Okay, good job, Arjuna. I like how you're admitting your weakness here. That's honest and humble at the same time, which is totally appropriate when you're of saintly character next to the Lord of all lords. Very appropriate. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Beautiful translation, just so personal. Looking at the word for word now. Bewildered in my heart, what all good may be, confidently tell me, disciple, I am. Your disciple I am, Arjuna says. Just instruct me. Unto you I have surrendered. Really good translation. I mean, the word for word compared to the translation here is just excellent. I mean, Prabhupada didn't change anything here, but he made it like jump off the page in modern English, which is incredible. I think we better read the purport for this. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. It's quite an analogy. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place. So, Vedic wisdom advises to solve this, we should approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not, therefore, remain in material places, but approach a master. That is the purport of this verse. Who is this man in perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Garga Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows. Quote, he is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs, without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all problems of life. The Kripanas, or miserly people, waste their time with family, society, country, in material conception, wife and children, and this attachment is on the basis of skin disease. The Kripana thinks that, I wonder if that's related to Kripa. Like without mercy, maybe? Probably. He thinks he can protect his family members from death, or that his family or society can save him from death. And this attachment can also be found in the lower animals who take care of their children also. Duh. I'm such a great human. I take care of my family. Yeah, insects do as well. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on the account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. It's so true. It's very sweet how that sounds. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious, and now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. This is huge. Um, the implication from that is that if you want to understand the Gita, you better be a lot like Arjuna, who is the first and best disciple of this great science. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself, and yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. What does that mean? Just like Krishna's energy? Anyway, there's no difference between Krishna's within and without. That's why I was confused. It's like I have to like remind myself that other people don't get this. It's just Krishna, man. There's no like, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand. Prabhupada is so funny, man. All right, we're going to stop there. Next time we'll continue with verse 8. Um, make sure that comment on YouTube. And I'll probably maybe chat for a few more moments, but I have to go to work soon, and I have to eat before I go to work. But this was really fun today, and I'm really glad I'm doing this. Hopefully others will come soon. Anyway, until next time, Hare Krishna. I'm going to be doing more impromptu readings at any random time. So for those who want to join, you'll have to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the bell notification. And you don't just like click the bell. You have to like click the bell and then do all notifications. You can choose from all, personalized, or none. If you do personalized, you may not get anything. So you just got to do all notifications, and then you'll see the next time I'm coming up here. All right, Bo?